Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It's Themeless Thursday and we're talking about all manner of things today, like, of course, shootings and the moon. Where did it come from? Let's go ahead and go into our headlines. Today on Before Coffee. Japan's space agency says it may now have clues about the origins of the moon.
And in America, another day, another shooting, this one at the Superbowl Celebration.
Running or yoga can help you beat depression. Research shows even if exercise is the last thing you feel like doing.
And the FDA is recalling sleep apnea machines that are killing people.
Use your taste buds with these fusion foods.
Those stories and more, which is National Gumdrop Day and National Wisconsin Day. February 15th, 2024 on Before Coffee.
Okay, for our first news story here, we've got Japan's space agency has some news for us about the moon. This is by Associated Press. The image provided by the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency shows its little image of its lunar excursion vehicle of a robotic the LEV-2. The robotic moon rover called the Smart Lander for investigating the moon. An unmanned lunar spacecraft has captured and transmitted data analyzing 10 lunar rocks, a greater than expected achievement that could help provide clues about the origin of the moon, a Japan Space Agency official said on Wednesday, which was February 14th. For 4 days, the Smart Lander for investigating the moon, or SLIM, which landed on the moon last month, has used its multi-band spectral camera to study rock composition and worked on examining lunar rocks, said Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency project manager Shinichiro Sakai. The lunar mission is Japan's first. The spacecraft made a historic precision touchdown on January 20th, though it landed the wrong way up, with its solar panels initially unable to see the sun and was turned off after a brief communication with Earth. But on the 8th day, it started working, allowing it to successfully re-establish communication with the command center at the JAXA on Earth, JAXA. A black-white photo transmitted soon after SLIM was reactivated showed the bumpy lunar surface, including 6 rocks. The craft eventually obtained data from 10 rocks altogether, all of which had been given the names of dog breeds such as Akita Inu, Beagle, and Shiba Inu. We are hoping that the rock analysis will lead us to the origins of the moon, Sakai said. By comparing the mineral compositions of moon rocks and those on Earth, they can find out if the rocks have common elements, he said. According to the giant impact hypothesis, the moon is believed to have formed as a result of Earth colliding with another planet, and a smaller mass of spinning off of them. The JAXA team expected JAXA expected SLIM to study and analyze only 1 rock, so having data on 10 rocks was a cause for celebration, propelling the team to pursue studying the moon's origins. SLIM is currently hibernating in another lunar night that will last till late February. It remains unknown if the probe and its spectroscope will survive the severe cold night temperatures and be able to wake up once sunlight returns. The spacecraft has landed about 55 meters or 60 yards away from its target, near the Shioli crater, a region covered in volcanic rocks. It's the most precise landing compared to the previous moon missions that typically aimed for flat areas of at least 10 kilometers or 6 miles wide. If the lander had not encountered a last-minute failure in one of those 2 main engines that caused a harder than planned landing, SLIM's touchdown was estimated to be within meters of the target, JAXA said. SLIM carried 2 autonomous probes, with which were released just before touchdown, recording the landing, surroundings, and other lunar data. The 2 small probes had completed their mission of recording SLIM's initial work and have since stopped working. Landing made Japan the world's 5th country to reach the moon after the United States, the Soviet Union, China, and India. Let's all go to the moon. Every country deserves to go to the moon. That's what I say. All right, but there's our news on the moon landing. What were you gonna say?
They'll find out nothing's open there. Everything's closed. All the restaurants,
there's no
all the
Starbucks
bars.
on the moon. That's true.
The moon holiday.
But that's my story.
That's the story?
Yep,
Oh, nice story. Okay, well, United States, we still have guns. That's right. And we still have idiots. Idiots and guns, what do you get? Idiots and guns
combo.
and a crowd, what do you get? Here we go with more horrifying, disgusting bullshit from morons with guns. Here we go. Kansas City, Missouri. This is AP, but this is being covered by everybody. Heather Hollingsworth and Nick Ingram, 8 children, were among the 22 people hit by gunfire in a shooting at the end of Wednesday's parade. To celebrate the Kansas City chants by gun violence. One of those victims, a mother of two, identified by radio station, was killed. So, way to go, asshole. Way to go, fuckwad. You killed a mom. Now what? Are you happy? Piece of shit. Anyway, this is why I don't report. This is why I don't report on shooting. Need food, go to the store.
Yeah.
Getting threatened by somebody, be fucking, or you're going down and fight them. Fight them. Be a man, you pussies.
Punch each other in the face.
It's always men, by the way. Anyway.
But, yeah, I think it's like 900 men have committed shootings or something.
You can't fight?
Like that, yeah.
If you got 2 arms, you can fight, you pussy. Put your gun down, you cowards. You're a bunch of cowards. You're a bunch of small little men with nothing but cowardice. Yeah. I don't shoot me, motherfucker. I don't care. I'm not even scared because I'll take your gun away from you because I'm not a coward. Ah. Anyway, so another coward. Kansas City cleaned as part of the investigation. She said she has heard that fans may have been involved in tackling suspect, but couldn't immediately confirm that. Well, it was a big crowd. You're probably not going to get up too many.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
Uh-oh. Disconnected.
Hello. Kansas City Police Chief Stacey Gray said that 3 people had been detained as part of the investigation. She said he had heard that many fans have been involved in tackling the suspect. Yes. I am angry at what happened today. The people who came to this celebration should expect a safe environment, Gray said. Police did not immediately release any details about the people who were detained about a possible motive. Possible motive. What? Yeah, okay. All that is actively being investigated. The possible motive is he's a gutless coward. How's that? Is it the latest sports celebration in the U.S. to end in gun violence following a shooting that injured several people last year in downtown Denver after the Nuggets NBA championship and gunfire last year at the parking lot near the Texas Rangers World Series championship parade? Yeah, my team wins anything. I ain't going to nothing, man. I'm going to stay home. What the hell am I celebrating for? They're going to share the money with me? No, they're not.
What did we talk about before? Like, this is terrorism, right? It's forcing people, I can't go outside, live my life, because might get shot up outside, minding my own business. Nothing to do with me.
And again, the news reports a good guy with a gun did not stop the shooting. It was good guy without a gun that stopped the shooting because they tackled him.
Yeah.
If it was a good guy without a gun, they would have shot him.
Yeah.
So hundreds and hundreds of people, probably hundreds of them had guns even because it's Missouri. So how many people there were taking them out? None of them, because it's a stupid idea, giving everybody guns. You just have more people shooting innocent bystanders. The cops shoot innocent bystanders all the fucking time.
Yeah.
And they're trained, supposedly. Social media users posted shocking video of police running through a crowded scene as people hurriedly scrambled for cover and fled. One video showed someone apparently performing chest compressions on the shooting victim as another person, seemingly writhing in pain, lay on the ground. Nearby, people screamed in the background. Another video showed two people chase and tackle a person, holding them down until two police officers arrived. And there's lots of video in this AP story. Radio station KKFI said in a Facebook post Wednesday evening that Lisa Lopez Galvin, host of Taste of Tejano, was killed in the shooting. So it was actually a famous person, but the senseless act has taken a beautiful person from her family in this KC community, KKFI. So Lopez Galvin, whose DJ name was Lisa G, was an extroverted and devoted mother from a prominent Latino family in the area, and Rosa Izarita and Martha Ramirez, two childhood friends who worked with her at the staffing company. Izarita said Lopez Galvin had attended the parade with her husband and her adult son, a diehard Kansas City sports fan, who was also shot. She's the type of person who would jump in front of a bullet for anybody. That would be Lisa, Izarita said. The shooting outside the Union Station happened despite more than 800 police officers were in the building and around the area, including on top of the nearby building, said Mayor Quinton Lucas, who attended with his wife and mother and had to run for cover when gunfire broke out. I think that's something that all those people all of us who are parents, parades, rallies, schools, movies, it seems like nothing is safe. Kansas City has long struggled with gun violence, and in 2020 was one of 9 cities targeted by U.S. Justice Department in an effort to crack down on violent crime. In 23, the city matched the record with 182 homicides, most of which involved guns. You might just say most of which involve cowards, because if you need a gun, you're a coward. End of fucking statement. You don't need a gun. You're a coward.
Yeah.
What do you need a gun for? Because you're a coward. End of story. No reason. Don't need it. You're gonna go hunting? Fine. Go in the woods and hunt.
Yeah,
that's a
hunt
long
with your
gun.
freaking pistol.
You don't need a pistol to hunt. It's inaccurate and it doesn't hit anything beyond 20 feet. It's just gonna go some direction you don't want it to go. Sorry.
You don't hunt with the AR-15 either. That just destroys everything. Giant gaping hole in your meat. Nice.
You get one round off. You can hunt with an AR-15, but you're only going to get one well-aimed round.
Yeah.
The rest are going to go everywhere.
Yep.
Well, get an automatic. Lisa Money, a resident of the city, was trying to gather some confetti near the end of the parade when she heard somebody yell, "Down, down, everybody." At first, Money thought somebody might be joking until she saw the SWAT team jumping over the fence. I can't believe it really happened. Who in their right mind would do something like this? Obviously, it's not somebody in their right mind. Sanders of Lenox, Kansas, said he heard what sounded like firecrackers. And then people started running. After the initial flurry, calm returned, he didn't think much of it. 10 minutes later, ambulances starting showing up. So here we got something that everybody's prepared for and didn't prevent one idiot from being an idiot. Hopefully, you know what might solve this is if they just let the mob just tear the person into little shreds, right? Just rip them arm, limbs, and just throw their body parts all over the place. That might get these gun owners thinking twice. Do you really want to die that way, getting your head ripped off by a crowd? I don't think you do. Anyway, that's the way civilized countries would take care of it. Throw the man to the mob. I'm just kidding. But yeah, another shooting in the USA. They're going to blame it on, let me think, gays in the military or something, right?
Yeah, metal music or something.
On something else. You know, they'll blame it on, immigration.
He was friends with the black guy, so that's why he did it, you know? Some stupid bullshit that has nothing to do with anything, yeah.
Isn't it funny how if he didn't have a gun and he had a beef with somebody, all he was maybe stab him or something, but again, you can't accidentally wound 28 bystanders by stabbing.
Unless,
Because
yeah,
the crowd
that's true.
will pull apart. Yeah, you can only get so many stabs in if somebody breaks your arm. That's your story in a wonderful shooting gallery called America. Back to you.
Really tragic what happened. As everyone, I'm sure, can agree with that. Let's go ahead and turn on to something a little more depressing, which is a little more less depressing, I should say, with, hey, are you depressed? Well, according to your grandpa that told you to go outside and take a walk, he might have been right.
Yep.
This is from Michael Notel on The Conversation. Running or yoga? At least 1 in 10 people have depression at some point in their lives, with some estimates closer to 1 in 4. It's one of the worst things for someone's well-being, and worse than debt, divorce, or diabetes. That's right. Depression is a real illness, and it does affect your life and your health. 1 in 7 Australians take antidepressants. Psychologists are in high demand. Still, only half of the people with depression in high-income countries get treatment. New research shows that exercise should be considered alongside therapy and antidepressants. Not that it's the only cure, but that it is an additional thing to help. It can be just as impactful as treating depression as therapy, but it matters what type of exercise you do and how you do it. Walk, run, lift, or dance away depression. Dancing is my go-to, I'll be honest. Whenever I'm feeling down, I open the windows, I get some vitamin D, and I start dancing. And you know what? After that, I'm like, you know what? Life isn't so bad. I'm happy I'm alive. They found that 218 randomized trials on exercise for depression with 14,171 participants. Now, this is a study. 14,000 people. That's a lot of people. They analyzed them using a method called network meta-analysis. This allowed them to see how different types of exercise compared to instead of lumping all types together. They found that walking, running, strength training, yoga, and mixed aerobic exercise are about as effective as cognitive behavior therapy, one of the gold standard treatments for depression. The effects of dance were also very powerful. However, this came from analyzing just 5 studies, mostly involving young women. Yeah, maybe it's only women. Women, if you're a depressed woman out there, go dancing. It's the cure, according to this article. Only women. Men. No, this is a true thing though. Okay, the reason I'm trolling this is because this is a real thing. There are medical studies out there where they've only done tests on men. So they determined that because no women have been tested, it must not be applicable to women, right? Oh, like getting a catheter put in. No women have ever been tested for pain medication when getting catheters put in. So doctors, like not all doctors, but there are doctors out there who are like, women don't need it. There's never been a study that they need it. It's because they never did a study with women, right? So they equate absence of evidence as no need for the actual pain medication, right? So that's why I'm saying, since they've only done studies with women dancing, only women obviously can get cured by dancing. Men get fucked, I guess.
Yeah. No gender bias there.
Yeah, right? No, it's totally a big problem. But, right. Walking, running, strength training, yoga, and mixed aerobic exercise seem more effective than antidepressant medication alone, and were about as effective as exercise along antidepressants. But of these exercises, people were most likely to stick with strength training and yoga. Antidepressants certainly help some people, and of course, anyone getting treatment for depression should talk to their doctor before changing what they are doing. Still, the evidence shows that if you have depression, you should get a psychologist and an exercise plan, whether or not you're taking antidepressants. I think that's also what Robert's doing. Robert goes to a therapist, but he also has started exercising a lot of strength training stuff. I think it has improved his mood from my outward look. You know, I haven't asked him if he feels better, but before they analyzed the data, they thought people with depression might need to ease into it with generic advice such as some physical activity is better than doing none. But they found that it's far better to have a clear program that's aimed to push you at least a little bit. That's true. I don't know if anyone here's, but I don't know if you've been depressed. I have been depressed. Easing you into something is not how depression works. You have to jump into the deep end because it's so much effort. stop being depressed, right? To actually put that first foot forward, that you're better off putting that first foot forward over 5 steps instead of just one singular step, because it's not going to feel like you're doing anything. You're still going to feel like you're in the depression instead of just jumping, just jump, go for it. So I kind of agree with that, this evidence, I guess, this opinion on that. When you have a clear, structured program, you work better compared to those who gave lots of freedom. Exercising by yourself also might make it harder to set the bar at the right level. Given low self-esteem is a system of depression. But they also found it didn't matter how much people exercise in terms of session or minutes a week. It also didn't really matter how long the exercise program lasted. What mattered was the intensity of the exercise. The higher the intensity, the better the results. Yeah, do something really hard for 10 minutes and you'll probably feel better than doing something for an hour. Exercise should be done in caution. Unlike drug trials, participants in the exercise trials know which treatment they've been randomized to receive, so this may skew the results. Many people with depression have physical or psychological or social barriers to participating in formal exercise programs, and getting support to exercise isn't free. They also don't know the best way to stay motivated to exercise, which can be even harder if you have depression. The study tried to find out whether setting exercise goals helped, but they couldn't get a clear result. Other reviewers found it important to have a clear action plan, for example, putting exercise in your calendar, and to track your progress, for example, using an app or a smartwatch. But predicting which of these interventions work is notoriously difficult. A 2021 mega study of more than 60,000 gym goers, that is a mega study, 60,000 people, found experts struggling to predict which strategies might get people into the gym more often. Even making workouts fun didn't seem to motivate people. However, listening to audiobooks while exercising helped a lot, which no experts predicted. Still, we can be confident that people benefit from personalized support and accountability. The support helps group overcome the hurdles they've sure to hit. The accountability keeps people going even when their brains are telling them to avoid it. So when starting out, it seems wise to avoid going it alone. Instead, join a fitness group or a yoga studio. Get a trainer or an exercise physiologist, or ask a friend and family member to go with a walk for you. Taking a few steps towards getting that support makes it more likely you'll keep exercising. And this is definitely why I do yoga every day on stream, because instead of me asking somebody to do yoga with me at a fitness studio or something, I decided my best motivation is if I have to stream it, I have to do it. That's my motivation. So if I need to do something, I just stream the whole thing, even if no one's watching, because I know I will actually do the thing I need to do because somebody might be watching me do it. I don't know why, but it works for me. So that's my secret advice to you. Start streaming your yoga, I guess, even to your friends or something, whatever. Also walking with a friend, asking to go for a walk every day for 30 minutes. Hey, you want to go for a walk, talk about stuff? I think also Robert combines that together, because I think his therapist and him do go for a walk and go to a cafe and hang out together while also having therapy. So he's already doing that kind of combo move that really helps get you over your depression. So that's my article for you, my feel-good article I get after that terrible news about the shooting, and on to your story.
Well, I think humans are naturally curious too, and I think walking opens our minds to more things. You see just anything, a bird, just a freaking bird wow, that's a bird I've never seen before. And you may not turn into a bird watcher or something, but at least it's just like, you know what? There's life outside of my little freaking web of stupidity inside my brain because that
is what depression is. Depression is being too introspective and being in your head all the time. So, yeah.
Right. You blame yourself for everything. And that's the truth. That's what depression is. You think you can solve problems, and you really can't. There's no real solutions. There's no real prize. There's no real reward. Come on now. Hey, one of my favorite places to walk for introspection is cemeteries. I love cemeteries.
Oh, you can read about all the people who had lives.
Yeah, and everybody there is completely quiet. They won't interrupt you. They've said everything they're ever going to say.
Yeah.
All right.
Unless they're the ghost. Unless you're in a haunted cemetery. That's a bit different.
Talk about it, which is even better. You know, you can tell your friend, I saw a ghost. They think you're crazy. I said, oh, I'm not crazy. We're going back to the cemetery. We're going to find a ghost. All right. So in medical news, this is AP again. Matthew Perron. By the way, I sent you a video.
Okay.
On
I got it.
Facebook Messenger. Okay. Because it's an anniversary. The sleep apnea machine said Monday it will stop selling the devices in the U.S. under a tentative agreement with regulators that could cost the manufacturer nearly $400 million. Device maker Philips has recalled more than 5 million pressurized breathing machines due to risks that their internal foam can break down over time, leading to users to inhale tiny particles and fumes while they sleep. The company first announced the problem in mid-21, but efforts to repair or replace the machines have dragged on for years, frustrating patients in the U.S. and other countries. The Dutch manufacturing giant said it has agreed to a consent decree with the Food and Drug Administration of the United States and the Department of Justice. The deal has not been finalized and will have to be approved by the U.S. judge. Philips executives disclosed that the tentative agreement during a quarterly earnings update. Under the agreement's terms, Philips would continue servicing previously sold machines in the U.S. but could sell new ones until it meets corrective actions laid out by the FDA. Company executives said they have set aside $393 million for operational changes and upgrades needed to comply. The company promised it would put safety and quality at the center of everything we do, with a greater level of accountability. Philips CEO Roy Jacobs told analysts and investors. The FDA's website plan warns patients that the risk of ingesting the sound dampening foam could include headache, asthma, allergic reactions, and more serious problems. In November, the agency issued a new warning that the machines can overheat. Wonderful. In rare cases, causing fires. So it's not choking you to death and loading you with chemicals. It's setting your house on fire while you're sleeping. That's not cool.
That's lovely, yeah.
The agency said it can not comment on Philips' announcement until the final agreement is signed and filed with the court. In 2022, the FDA took a rare step of ordering Philips to step up its outreach to customers about the recall, including clearer information about the health risks of its products. At the time, the agency estimated only about half of the people in the U.S. with affected machines knew they had been recalled. Yeah, they didn't even know it. Customers trying to obtain refunds or new refurbished devices from the company have reported months of delays. Most of the recalled devices are continuous positive air pressure or CPAP machines. They force air through a mask and keep passages open during sleep. The company has that I would never even think of doing that. Good Lord. Let me snore. It's because people snore. That's all it is. Your snoring bothers me. Put this on your face. That's what I say to you. Go to a different room. You don't like my snoring. End of the story. Untreated sleep apnea can cause people to stop breathing hundreds of times per night, leading to dangerous drowsiness and increased heart attack risk. I'd rather die that way. I'd rather die in my sleep. Best way to die. You go to sleep, you never wake up. Boom. End of it.
You're just having a nice dream and then you're gone. Yeah.
It's great. No, strap this crap to my face so I don't snore. I want to die that way, slowly, of some awful disease. Anyway, the problem, untreated sleep apnea can cause people to stop breathing 100 times per night. The problem is more common in men than women. I think it's more common that women will complain about men snoring and make them wear it. Just my point of view. The problem is more because my personal experience, I get yelled at by women for snoring, and they snore worse than me. I guarantee you, there's nobody snores worse than the same people are complaining about me. I would never tell them to put on a freaking machine, and they would never do that. Maybe smother them in their sleep, but no, I would never. No, just kidding. Just a joke. Just a joke. I'm not. On Monday, Phillips again pointed to company commission studies suggested that inhaling foam from its machine is unlikely to result in appreciable harm to patients. The company has discontinued several of the recalled models. The latest announcement does not resolve 675 personal injury lawsuits filed against the company over decades. Those cases have been consolidated in a federal court in Pennsylvania. Those face similar legal challenges in Canada, Australia, Israel, and Chile, according to the company's update. I would just get out of the sleep apnea business if I was down. I have a long story from the Atlantic. Do you want me to read that, or should we wait say that till tomorrow?
You can go ahead and read it. It's fine. You want to talk?
Okay.
It's Themeless Thursday. You want to talk about it? You talk about it. That's what I say.
I wanted to read it, and it kind of applies to me, and it might apply to you. And what you were just talking about with taking a walk.
Yeah.
And this is I subscribe to Atlantic, which is a magazine that has longer articles that are written by people that are deep diving in this stuff.
Yeah.
And this is from Derek Thompson on theatlantic.com. Why Americans suddenly stopped hanging out. Too much aloneness is creating a crisis of social fitness. I know myself, I have terrible social anxiety, just made worse by the pandemic and being alone all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
This is a work in progress, a newsletter about work technology and how to solve some of America's biggest problems. In its earliest decades, the United States was celebrated for the citizens' extroversion. Americans weren't just setting out to build new churches in new cities. Their associations were of, as Alex de Tocqueville wrote, of 1,000 different types: religious, moral, serious, futile, very general, and very limited, immensely large and very minute. Americans seemed adept at forming social groups, political associations, labor unions, local memberships. It was as if the continent itself had imbued its residents with a vibrant social metabolism, a verve for getting out and hanging out. Nothing in my view, de Tocqueville wrote, deserves more attention than the intellectual and moral associations in America. Something's changed in the past few decades. After the 1970s, America's dynamism declined. Americans moved less from place to place. They stopped showing up at their churches and temples. In the 1990s, the sociologist Robert Putnam recognized that America's social metabolism was slowing down. In the book Bowling Alone, he gathered reams of statistical evidence to prove that America's penchant for starting and joining associations appeared to be in free fall. Book clubs and bowling leagues were going bust. If Putnam felt that the first raindrops of antisocial revolution in America downpour are fully here, we are getting washed away by the flood. From 2003 to 22, American men reduced their average hours face-to-face socializing by 30%. For unmarried Americans, the decline was even bigger, more than 35%. For teenagers, it was more than 45%. Boys and girls aged 15 and 19 reduced their weekly social hangouts by more than 3 hours a week. In short, there's no statistical record of any other period in U.S. history when people have spent more time on their own. Well, I can blame the internet for that. Group chat with people from different countries, And so what? One might reasonably ask, aloneness is not loneliness. Not only that, one might point out the texture of loneliness has changed. Solitude is less solitary than ever. With all the calling, texting, emailing, work chatting, DMing, and posting, we are producing unprecedented tetrabytes of interpersonal communication. Although it's not that personal. If Americans were happy about themselves, about their friends, about their country, when whining about parties of one would feel silly. But for Americans in the 2020s, solitude, anxiety, and dissatisfaction seem to be rising in lockstep. Surveys show that Americans, and especially young Americans, had never been more anxious about their own lives and more depressed about the future of the country. Teenage depression and hopelessness are setting new annual records every year. The share of young people who say they have a close friend has plummeted. Americans have been so depressed about the state of the nation for so many consecutive years that by 2023, NBC pollsters said, we have never before seen this level of sustained pessimism in the 30-year plus history of the poll. I don't think, news organizations really need to understand they're part of the problem when they take these polls. They really need to understand that, because they will not report on a variety of subjects. They will sit and hone in on something that gets ratings, and that's all they care about anymore. Watch the movie Network, and you'll say, oh, back in the 70s, the Movies Network came out. People were saying, that'll never happen. People watching the news because of ratings. The news is only ratings. That's what it is now. It's only ratings. You're not getting the news. You're getting something that's making you watch, and that's it. I don't think hanging out more will solve every problem. I don't think every social crisis in the U.S. could be helped somewhat if people spend a little time more. Let's do this again. I don't think hanging out more will solve every problem, but I do think every social crisis in the U.S. could be helped somewhat if people spend a little more time with each other people and a little less time gazing into digital content that's designed to make us anxious and despondent about the world.
Yeah.
This young century, Americans have collectively submitted to a national experiment to deprive ourselves of camaraderie in the world of flesh and steel, choosing instead to grow and grow and grow the time we spend by ourselves gazing into screens, wherein actors and influencers often engage in very acts of physical proximity that we deny ourselves. It's been a weird experiment, and the results haven't been pretty. To get a crystal clear picture of how hanging out has dissipated in America, I spent the past week spelunking inside the America Time Used Survey, an annual government poll of how people in the U.S. spend their days. Economists at ATUS carefully track time spent socializing, meaning face-to-face interaction, for more than a dozen demographics. Broadly, real-world socializing has declined for both men and women, for all ages, for all ethnicities, for all levels of income and education. Although COVID-19 clearly increased time alone, these trends predate the pandemic. The steepest declines have been among young people, poor people, and Black Americans. Women and 20-somethings enjoy the most social Women and 20-somethings enjoy the most social time in a given week, and low-income, middle-aged, unmarried men seem to get together the least. What are you going to talk about? I'm unmarried and I don't have a job.
Low income, he said. I think they have a job. But they just don't make a lot of money, right? They're not. They're not a CEO or some shit. Whatever low income means, yeah.
Don't be ashamed of your job. Everybody hates their job, even the people that say they don't hate their job.
I think
just believe that they don't.
There's a risk out there for some people, right? That like having a better job than your friends is some sort of like, oh, look at me, beat my chest, I'm better than my friends. So then if you're like, if you're low income, you're like, oh yeah, I work at Walmart. You're just gonna feel like depressed about your life or something because your friend is a freaking lawyer or some shit, I guess.
I don't care working. They treat you well. I don't care. If you work at a job and you're happy with your job and they treat you well, that's all that matters.
I'm just saying there are people out there who do care, I guess.
I'm just saying they have to pay you money. I had a job that paid me well. I hated it. I hated the people I worked for. I hated the people I had to report to. They were just looking for shit to blame me for. Who needs that?
They needed to prove that they were supposed to be paying you. Yeah.
Yeah, every move I would make, I started worrying about if it was the wrong move, no matter what it was. Who wants to have a job like that? Broadly, a real-world socialite. Beyond in-person hanging, several other forms of socialization have declined in about a third in the past 20 years, including the share of Americans who volunteer and the share of Americans who attend religious services over the weekend. One of the more curious trends to jump out of the data is that many Americans have traded people for pets in our social time. Understandable. The average time that the Americans spend with their pets has roughly doubled over the past 20 years, both because more people have adopted pets and because they spend more time with them. In 2003, the typical female pet owner spent much more time socializing with humans than playing with her cat or dog. But by 22, this flipped. The average woman with a pet now spends more time actively engaged with her pet than she spends hanging out face-to-face with fellow humans on any given day. The hangout depression is particularly bad for teenagers. According to the ATUS, teens and young adults saw by far the largest dip in socializing, especially since 2010. In fact, it is genuinely difficult to find any category of play that isn't experiencing some kind of Mayday descent among its group. Teens are dating less, playing fewer youth sports, spending less time with their friends, and making fewer friends to begin with. In the late 1970s, more than half of the 12th graders got together with their buddies almost every day. By 2017, only 28% did. That's a very clear. There's very clearly been a striking decline in in-person socializing among teens and young adults, whether it's going to parties, driving around in cars, going to the mall, or just about anything that has to do with getting together in person, says Gene Twenge, a psychology professor at San Diego State University. The large differences by gender or ethnicity among teenagers. She pulled data from the University of Michigan's Monitoring the Future, a decades-old survey of teens, which we've used to make this following charts. There's a chart here you can't see. The first shows the share of 12th grade boys and girls who say they go out with friends 2 or more times a week. From 1976 to 22, the number of socializers fell by a similar figure, about 30%. Hangouts declined a bit more among black teens than white teens. What are the root causes of the great American introversion? The first explanation is so obvious that it scarcely needs mentioning. In fact, I've already mentioned this. Americans are spending less time with other people because they're spending more time with their screens, televisions, and phones. The evidence that young people have replaced friend time with phone time is strong. Twenge wrote in her book Generations, it's not just the teens overall seem to be have funneled their social lives into their smartphones. Even more telling, the groups with the largest increase in phone use, such as liberal 12th grade girls, also the largest declines in hanging with friends, strongly suggesting a direct relationship. For those who don't accept the correlative evidence, we also have a 2019 randomized experiment for NYU and Stanford researchers have found that paying people to deactivate Facebook increased the time they spend socializing with friends. It also increased the time they watch TV. Well, there you go. The second explanation is that people are hanging out less because we're all so damn busy. As the New York Times' Jessica Gross notes, people in their 30s and 40s have less leisure time than they did 2 decades ago. As Ann Helen Peterson said, Americans have a tendency to spread out and build an environment and the built environment of the U.S. housing market forces many people to move away from friends and family, which means they ultimately buy a bit of loneliness with their money. It is a compelling argument, and as a new father, not me, this guy wrote the article, I can appreciate how the demands of childcare and work might squeeze out the last drops of social time, but the data say that this can't be the whole story. The research by the Philadelphia Fed has found that time alone has increased more for low-income, non-white individuals for whom hours worked haven't increased much in the last 20 years. This would complicate the idea of loneliness is the price of overscheduled business.
Yeah,
that seems too simple. Twenge told me she's also unconvinced by the argument about congested schedules. At least it applies to teenagers. Sometimes I'll hear the case that teens are spending so much more time on homework, but the evidence suggests it's just not true. In fact, homework time has gone down for the past few years. Wait, I never liked homework. It's stupid. I had to work when I got home. I worked on a farm, and they sent me home with homework. I did all my homework and study all, even if I did it wrong. I never took my school books home. I always ran the risk of leaving them at home by accident, The share of teens who have jobs has gone down, so despite some parents jam-packing their kids' schedule, the overall extracurricular time looks pretty stable in surveys. If anything, teens today have more leisure time than they used to. They just choose to spend it on their phones. A third explanation for Americans' cascading social mojo is is the Putnam theory described in Bowling Alone. The rise of aloneness is part of an erosion of America's social infrastructure. Someone once told me that the best definition of community is where people keep showing up. Well, where is that now exactly? Certainly not at church. Each successive generation is attending less than our parents. Not community centers or youth sports field, even the dubious community building power of the office. Arguably the last community standing for many is weakening with the popularity of hybrid and remote work. America is suffering a kind of ritual recession with fewer community-based routines, more entertained for empowerment of individuals and the aloneness they choose. When you put these three stories together, you get something like this. Face-to-face rituals and customs are pulling on our time less. Face-to-face screen technologies are pulling our attention more. The inevitable result is a hangout depression. And for young people, all this seems to clearly correlate with actual depression. Teen loneliness has surged in the past decade, alongside teen hopelessness, depression, and suicidal thinking. According to CDC's Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance System, the share teenage girls experience persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness increased from 36 to 57%. And the share of girls who said they've contemplated suicide has increased 50% in the same decade. Neither the decline in socializing nor the surge in mental distress has any precedent on record. The rise in teen depression coincides with the proliferation of smartphones and social media. It's very suspicious that teen anxiety and depression really started to take off around 2012 because that's when 50% of Americans own a smartphone, when social media went from optional to virtually mandatory, and when smartphones got front-facing cameras, Twenge told me. Academics, including Twenge, and their social psychologist John Haidt with a D, not hate, have repeatedly argued that phones have driven the anxiety crisis of marriage youth, in part reducing the presence of physical world relationships that are necessary to healthy adolescent development, swapping touches for screen taps. America's kids are experiencing more solitary. Oh, I can't read. A more solitary and melancholy childhood we've ever seen. During my time picking through ages data, I reminded of the Harvard study of adult development, which is the oldest longitudinal study on happiness and well-being ever conducted. Last year's director said, the simple and profound conclusion of their work was that good relationships are the key to happiness. Just as many people are familiar with the concept of physical fitness, they said we should be equally open to the concept of social fitness. We should care for our relationships as we care for our body. So this goes on for 3 more paragraphs, so I'll just give you a 2-minute warning. One can imagine similar framework to
it's going on for a very long time.
We come into this world craving presence of others, but a few modern trends, a spiraling built environment, the decline of church, social mobility that moves people away from friends and families, spreads us out as adults in a way that invites disconnection. Meanwhile, as an evolutionary hangover of a more dangerous world, we are extensively engineered to pay attention to the spectacle of catastrophe. But screens have replaced a chunk of our physical world experience, and a digital simulacrum that has enough spectacle and catastrophe to capture hours of our greedy attention. These devices so absorb us that it's very difficult to engage with them and be present with other people. The sum result of these trends is that we are both pushed and pulled toward the level of aloneness for which we are disavowed and emotionally unprepared. Sartre said, hell is other people. Perhaps the alternative is worse. I have a theory on it too. One more thing contributing factor, legal marijuana, right? Used to be a social event to go get some weed. Now you can just go to the store and buy some.
And get high in your house by yourself, yeah.
Yeah. Go smoke it alone because you didn't have to get together with 5 people and pull your money and go find the guy who knows a guy, you know?
I mean that's kind of why I am addicted to MMOs, which are mass multiplayer online games, because you meet so many people on there from all over the world, and that's the only place I really feel comfortable in a video game, meeting up with people and getting social. I don't want to do it in real life because you can't just log off real life. Because I am introverted, right? I can't just guys, I have to go, in the middle of a party. You have to stay at that party until,
That's true.
not the same.
Also, social graces, the social things are not taught anymore, like sending thank you notes, stuff like that.
Depends, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, none of that stuff anymore. People are just disconnected and all that. It's more about hanging out in person, though. Hanging on the internet's not a substitute for it,
I don't agree
Anyway,
with
back to you.
but
Well, that's because you're isolated yourself and you're happy with it. I'm
I
talking about
don't
this
feel
article, and
isolated at all.
people not hanging out has dropped down. All right, whether you say you're happy with it or whether you are happy with it, does not take away from the overall trend. And this guy was just trying to explain the reasons for it, and I've spent too much time in this already. Your story.
Well, okay. Right, let's go to our more culture segment. In a way, that was a culture segment about the culture of being lonely. Let's talk about fusing our taste buds. That's right, not scientifically, but with different cultures of food. This is from Eugene Weekly. Imagine binding a taste bud of two cultures that are 7,000 miles apart, each with a distinct culinary background and palate. A sapid combination that removes such regions' borders and lets us in. Well, think no further, Eugene, and grab a seat at Taco Mogo, the Korean-Mexican restaurant on Pearl Street that offers a unique blend of two disparate cultures that are big on food. Everything you came up with the sauces. It's Mexican. The sauces are mostly Korean mixed, says Yoon Bigot, Taco Mogo's owner and cook. The heart of Taco Mogo dishes are Korean influenced, but with a Mexican twist, Bigot says. The dishes have familiar items found from Latin American countries like tacos, burritos, birrias, and nachos. Nachos, tacos, and burritos are actually Tex-Mex, but hey, Texas used to be part of Mexico. Long time ago. But Bigot says her Korean background is the elemental kick the restaurant adds. One recipe that plays with the Didache theme is the Korean radishes. I love radishes. A thin layer of pickled root that is veiled over most of the dishes. It creeps in with each recipe as candied, crunchy, and flavorful addition to almost everything on the menu. Taco Mogo also serves most of its proteins as Korean-style barbecue, which is also based off of what? That's right, black barbecue-style food. Famously, there was a lot of black soldiers who went to Korea and actually intermingled with Koreans, and they taught them about fried chicken, and now Korea owns the fried chicken world, even though it was originally black people who taught them how to do it. Just more history on food here. The restaurant opened... For those unfamiliar with the method, it's usually a way of marinating the meat in equal parts soy sauce and sesame seed, oil, garlic, and ginger. And trust Eugene, Taco Mogo plays an excellent part in the style of food. The restaurant has been open since late February 2023, and interestingly enough, it's in the area's second Korean fusion restaurant with tacos on the menu, following Cheese Korean Tacos, which opened in 2018. Yoon says the inspiration for her own restaurant came from her Mexican daughter-in-law. We were joking together and saying we would open a Korean-Mexican restaurant, Bigot says, adding that her daughter-in-law helped build some of the recipes for the menu. Yoon was also able to decorate the restaurant with some papel picado, decorative punched pepper, along with the logo of a dragon with a sombrero on a greeting at the door. Taco Mogo isn't Yoon's first restaurant. In fact, she also owns and runs Banh Mi, a Vietnamese restaurant around the corner on East Broadway, serving authentic banh mi Vietnamese sandwiches and soups like pho. Is she Korean or is she Vietnamese? Who knows? I lived in Orange County and there are lots of Vietnamese people around. And that's where I started, Begot says. Born in South Korea. Okay, there we go. So she was influenced by the Vietnamese people. She grew up in Orange County. Yoon moved to Eugene at 19 along with her siblings. In 1996, she moved to California with her husband and worked in the restaurant industry there for 8 years. She says that is where she picked up the most of her restaurant traits before returning to Eugene in 2004. While Taco Mogo hinges on marinated meats and homemade ingredients, Yoon inspires to feature a rotating menu, experimenting with and mixing in new items and recipes that people might enjoy. One of the newest items is the birria ramen, a dish that combines two distinct ingredients of Mexican flavors with Asian classics, birria tacos and ramen noodles. Birria tacos feature a braised beef, spices, and unique taco shell that is soft and tender, and are usually dipped in a soupy consomme sauce or broth. Add traditional ramen with noodles, pork slices, and an egg served in miso broth. The unique composition of this dish offers something new both in flavor and appearance as the diner dips a taco into the ramen soup. There's also the tofu tacos, a vegetarian lover's platter that hits right at home. Even for those who aren't big on vegetarian meals, the tofu is highly marinated in Korean barbecue sauce and deep fried, and comes with a variety of sauces, both red, green, and with the pickled house favorites. Finally, there's the kimchi menu, a power trio of red pepper cabbage, bean sprout, and boy choy kimchi. The items can be sampled together or ordered individually as a side. The kimchi is made in-house daily and goes with multiple dishes from Taco Mogo's menu. So that's right, if you are ever interested in this, you can also try it yourself. You can go visit Taco Mogo, which is in California, if you want to, or you can be influenced by these cool recipes and try your own fusion foods. I love mixing my Mexican food that I know how to cook with my Indonesian food that Robert knows how to cook. Really interesting. There's actually a lot of similarities in food, just different ingredients, right? Because rice is more popular in Asia, but Mexicans love rice too. There's plenty of mixed rice you can have in Mexico as well. So there's my little short culture segment on go out there and fuse your taste buds together with different foods. On to this day in history.
Now I'm hungry. Now I'm hungry. Thank you very much.
Me too. I haven't eaten.
I will have breakfast maybe after coffee, which comes after the show is after coffee. All right, this day in history, we go all the way back to 1764 when Auguste Chateau settled St. Louis on the confluence of the Mississippi and Missouri rivers. Well, near it, anyway, as rivers change course. 1820, Susan B. Anthony, a pioneer crusader for women's suffrage movement in the United States, was born in Adams, Massachusetts. Happy birthday, Susan B. Anthony. I got dollars with your picture on them. Well, your image on them, not a picture. 1861, English mathematician and philosopher Alfred North Whitehead, who is perhaps best known for his work on the Principia Mathematica, was born in Ramsgate, Isle of Thanet, Kent, England, on this day in 1861. On this day in 1927, the silent film It was released in American theaters in Clairvaux. The star became Hollywood's first It girl. If you ever wonder where that came from. 1933, the assassin's bullet meant for the U.S. President-elect Franklin D. Roosevelt wounded Mayor Anton J. Seamack of Chicago, who died 3 days later. Now, you didn't hear about that one, did you? There's an FDR attempted assassination that killed the mayor of Chicago in 1933. I think Roosevelt had been in office for a month, not even a month, and somebody tried to shoot him. Crazy. 1950. Speaking of shootings, it's not a new thing in America. 1954, American cartoonist and animator Matt Groening, I think it's Groening, who created the comic strip Life in Hell and the futuristic series The Simpsons and Futurama, was born. 1965, Canada officially adopted the maple leaf flag following a royal proclamation. They got their cool flag. 1978, Leon Spinks defeated Muhammad Ali to become the heavyweight boxing champion of the world. Muhammad Ali was quite old by now. Leon Spinks, of course, was destroyed in his next fight by I think Leon Spinks was the famous Mike Tyson 90-second fight. Because Leon Spinks was old and washed up too. Under President Mikhail Gorbachev, the Soviet Union withdrew its last group. No, it was Michael Spinks, his brother. His brother Michael Spinks is the one that stood there and got pummeled by. Anyway, under President Mikhail Gorbachev, the Soviet Union withdrew its last troops from Afghanistan on this day in 1989. They had been there 10 years. So that's basically the Moscow, the limit of years they can stand being in a country and occupying it and just having their soldiers, terrorized every day by guerrilla warfare. That's what's going to happen to you in Ukraine. You know it. So why try to occupy it?
Yeah.
Get out of Ukraine. Yeah, you don't own it. Go home. More than 5 months after his single-engine airplane went missing, and this is in 2008, Stephen Fawcett, who was attempting to fly around the world, was legally declared dead. His body was later recovered in the Nevada mountains. Birthdays today. Galileo, Italian philosopher, astronomer, and mathematician, was born this day in 1564 and died January 18, 1642, age 77, in Arcetri, Italy. He was born in Pisa. Of course, Galileo spent most of his life locked up because he had the audacity to tell the Catholic Church that, yes, the earth goes around the sun, not the other way around. They said, "You heretic."
Actually, the worst part about that, we talked about this in my bachelor's degree in philosophy, and the worst part about that is that they knew he was right. They just didn't want...
Oh, yeah. They just didn't want anybody. Mm-hmm. And, of course, he invented the telescope, so they needed them. They needed this telescope. Because it was very cool, especially for war. Because we always need, you got to apply it to war, otherwise it has no function in our existence. In 1710, Louis XV was born. We covered Susan B. Anthony. In 1874, Ernest Shackleton, Anglo-Irish explorer, was born. Jaromir Jagr, Czech hockey player, was born in 1972. And on this day in music history, just for fun, let's do that one today. This day in music history, let's go back to the mist of time. 1962, Ray Charles recorded "I Can't Stop Loving You" at the United Studios in California. The tune would go on to top both the U.S. and U.K. charts and lead the Billboard album chart for 14 weeks. So a big album for Ray Charles. It was a country-themed album. That's why it was big, I think. 1964, the Beatles scored their first #1 album with "Meet the Beatles." The album stayed #1 for 11 weeks. 1965, Nat King Cole died. American singer and pianist Nat King Cole died of lung cancer on this day. His first hit was "Straighten Up and Fly Right." Had the 1955 #2 single "Blossom Fell," and the #2 single "When I Fall in Love." He has 20 or 40 other hits, and of course, the father of singer Natalie Cole. And in 1956, he became the first Black American to host a television variety show. American Blues, the 1968 American Blues musician Little Walter died in his sleep at age 37 from injuries incurred in a fight while taking a break from a performance in a nightclub in Chicago. Joining Muddy Waters band in 1948, he was the first harmonica player to amplify his harp, giving it a distorted, echoing sound. So Little Walter lost his life in a fight. This day, Sly and the Family Stone started a 4-week run at #1 of the U.S. single charts with "Everyday People," their first #1 hit. In 1975, Linda Ronstadt with the #1 on the U.S. singles chart with "You're No Good," the singer's only solo chart topper out of 12 other top 40 hits. Also today, Linda Ronstadt went to #1 on the U.S. album chart with "Heart Like a Wheel." Big old double, what do they call it? Double threat or whatever. Two #1 single, #1 album. What do they call that? Not a hat trick. In 1977, Glenn Matlock was fired as bass player for the Sex Pistols, being replaced by Sid Vicious, who could not play bass at all. So Glenn Matlock still had to play bass on the record they recorded. It's so funny. Plus some other bass player. And in 1979, Saturday Night Fever won Album of the Year at the Grammy Awards. And what day is it today? It is National Wisconsin Day. Yes, not the day Wisconsin became a state. It's just the day they arbitrarily chose to call National Wisconsin Day. I am being completely honest. That's what it is.
Put your cheese hat
National
on.
Gumdrop Day. What?
Get your cheese head on.
I can't hear you. What?
Put your cheese head on. You don't have your cheese hat. You
Oh,
know?
no, I don't
Wisconsin.
I don't have one of those. I don't even have my Green Bay Packers stuff in here. I got nothing Wisconsin related. My cheesy sense of humor. It's also Singles Awareness Day, because day after whatever that was, Valentine's Day, and it's National Gumdrop Day. That's it. That's all the days today. That's all I can do.
Themeless Thursday's done. Longest episode ever. I think we're gonna win the record on this one here.
I apologize. Everybody, go wash yourself down now.
All right. Well, this has been Allison here on from the Netherlands, where it's nice and sunny, and we're in the middle of the day here. But enjoy your coffee. Tomorrow, another news dump, the Friday news dump before the weekend. This has been February 15th, 2024, and here's your mic drop moment.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.